morning.
Good morning.
So I made it work, I think.
I think it looked good.
That was good. The problem with live streams is that they start and you have to get to them. So we're going to do that little 30-second thing. We'll start at about 10 seconds before 8:30. That gives everybody a little bit of time to find us and not miss, the incredible good morning that we do twice a week. You don't want to miss that.
On it,
For heaven's sakes, let's prioritize people. Good morning. We are talking about a parable called The Second Arrow today. But first, I want to say Happy International Day of the Woman.
Yes.
It's a big day. And just acknowledging that, why do we have days like this? Because women are so often and continuously and still overlooked for their contributions, for their makeup in the work world, for what they bring to society. So do what you can today to celebrate the women in your life. And I think I would also say, see if there isn't something you can do for the women of Ukraine today who, are leaving sons and husbands and fathers behind as they are fleeing, or who are staying and trying to figure out this terrible situation. So on that note, let's get to this parable that I found on Medium and sent it to Dr. Mary. I'm going to put the link up for you. It's also in the meeting notes. And I'm sorry in advance because it's a little bit sweary. I'm not going to read the sweary parts. Don't worry. This is an edited version. Well, I'm not you, Dr. Mary. So this is the second arrow strategy from the middle of this article about a guy who woke up every day with that mindset of, I'm not going to drink today, and by 3 p.m. was drinking. So he says, finally, after enough of those days in a row where I sat at the edge of the bed making promises to myself that I knew I wouldn't keep, I tried something different. I don't know where I got the idea. Well, I did that wrong. Sorry. Let me go back. What is the second arrow? That's where we're starting. The second arrow is an old Buddhist parable about the nature of pain and suffering. It goes something like this. The Buddha asks his student, when someone is shot with an arrow, is it painful? The student says yes. The Buddha asks, if they are then shot with a second arrow, is it even more painful? The student again says yes. And the Buddha explains, sometimes in life we cannot control the first arrow, but the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with the second arrow always comes the possibility of choice. This means that pain is out of our control, but suffering is optional. It's our response to pain that causes suffering. In short, the first arrow is when we feel bad. The second arrow is when we feel bad about feeling bad. So what do you want to say about that, Dr. Mary?
It's incredibly true. I mean, there's a statement down here, his third from last paragraph, which I will get to in a minute because it's a bit of a spoiler alert. I think this is incredibly spot on. I actually had days upon reflection when I'm pretty sure I actually would say to myself, what do you do when you're drinking too much? And then my inner voice would take over of, it's too late. You're damned anyway. You might as well just get on with it. And there was practically everyone I've met in rehab has had almost the same experience. The fact is you lose. Someone once said to me, it's like you've lost the ability to love yourself.
Yeah. And so the drinking is a problem, but your response to the drinking or to choosing to try to help yourself is the real damaging piece. Were you going to read something?
Yeah, he goes on to say, now that I've said that, he says in this article, the pain that comes out of our control, but suffering, this means that pain is out of our control, which is the first arrow, but suffering is optional. It is our response to pain that causes suffering. In short, The first arrow is when we feel bad. The second arrow is when we feel bad about feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I think I'll come on to this now. He says the voice, or his voice, about, of course you're going to drink, you dumb individual. That was a swear
Well
word.
done.
Thank you. The voice is the first arrow. The drinking was the second arrow. It hurt much worse because some part of me knew I was doing it to myself.
Yeah. So I have two things that I've been thinking about. One, think about last Thursday's conversation with Sarah and Tracy. Thank you so much to both of them for joining us. But the first arrow for them was losing Tracy's son, Evan, and Sarah's nephew, John. But think what they did to not deal with the second arrow, because it would have been easy to just absolutely fall apart in that moment and let despair consume them. But they both looked at that oncoming second arrow and said, no, we're going to do something different. We're going to try to make sure nobody else has to go through this horrific circumstance. And so that's extraordinary. And then the second thing is, I think about all of the people who have been guests with us who are in recovery on their own journey, who talk about that voice in their head, or who talk about, I never felt like I fit in. I was always anxious. I didn't belong. And then I had a drink and suddenly I felt like I belonged. And so that inner voice is so powerful. And that's not true only for addicts. That's true for all of us.
Everyone has ever had a self-doubt, which I would assume means everyone.
Everyone. I look fat in this. I'm not good enough. I wish I were taller. Why do I have these wrinkles? Why can't I do this? Why do I feel this way? All those voices are damaging. And some people pick up the second arrow of alcohol, and some people pick up the second arrow of gambling and shopping and eating at night. And we all have the opportunity to use that second arrow to create even more havoc in our life.
So the author goes on to say, so what changed in his mindset was his voice was always telling him, of course you're going to drink today. So he did.
Just like yours did.
Yeah. So he said, my voice said to me one morning, are you going to drink today? Of course you are. And my response was, I don't know. Here's a word Dana wouldn't want me to say out loud. Maybe I will. I edited that bit for you. And he said, that felt good. Like a weight had come off my shoulders. I felt like I was free. I found I was able to catch these thoughts as they arose, and faking it at first and then growing in confidence and skill, simply chose not to entertain them.
So again, let's use your example. Something in you shifted from, I'm drinking too much, too bad, drink yourself to death and get it over with, to I'm drinking too much, and I'm going to deal with it. Do you have any idea what that shift was? And maybe it wasn't one shift, but do you have any idea how you altered that second arrow for yourself?
I think for me, it was the same as almost everyone who can successfully enjoy a sober life. The 28 days people talk about, it's set up in the sections. The first 2 weeks is getting sober. The next 2 weeks is then dealing, or the first 14, well, it's 2 weeks, fortnight. The next fortnight is, all right, now you're sober. This is what you need to do if you want to stay sober. And after that, the rest is up to you.
Okay.
So I think I woke up, and when I woke up in the hospital and I didn't know which way was up for a few days, and I got to thinking, all right, I'm actually sober. Whoa, what's going on? Why am I here? This isn't life. This is terrible. What happened? And then I was determined to see if there was a place left for me.
Mm. So you don't have sort of one of those big shifts, which is fine.
I think my big shift was, why am I, for me, was how much have I been drinking? And then when I slowly worked it out, I thought, yeah, let's try that. Let's not do that and see what happens.
Mm.
And he even says it himself in this article. Sorry, my phone just went off. See if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's simple, not easy. The rule is simple. The insight is simple. Identifying the root cause is simple, but working through that root cause is anything but easy.
Yes. Again, let's turn it to something that many, many, many more people struggle with: weight. And that negative, damaging self-talk when you look at yourself in a mirror. You point out all your flaws. You tell yourself how stupid you were for eating that food, how terrible you are, how you're never going to be worthy of love or promotion or joy or whatever it is. I mean, again, you would never say out loud to anybody what you say to yourself. That's the first arrow. The second arrow then is, screw it, I'm going to go have 3 donuts. You can control the second arrow, but probably not until you actually look at the first arrow straight in the eye and redefine it. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to read his 2 of the last 3 paragraphs in this article. Maybe you can't help getting hit by the first arrow right now, but you can stop shooting the second.
Say that one more time.
Maybe you can't help getting hit by the first arrow right now, but you can stop shooting the second one.
Oh.
You can stop believing the lie that you are bad just because you have a bad habit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really lovely. So Mother says, I laid down a second arrow on March 3rd. I got a report that my bad cholesterol was high, so I laid down an arrow made out of butter. I'm being silly. Dr. Mary could affirm what I'm talking about. Yes. When you are Irish, you know what butter. You have a little bread with your butter, which is awesome, but not sustainable. He asked his wife why her mother had so much butter in the refrigerator. Yes, that is true. Mother, I didn't know that. Oh, I'm not being silly. You were also being a little silly. But did you stop eating butter? Did you use less butter? I'm very curious to know what you did with it.
I'm afraid to suggest a course of action for lowering your
Nobody wants margarine in this household. And by household, I mean deep extended family.
It is cholesterol free.
And it's made out of plastic containers.
Well, it was devised to stop cholesterol buildup.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to discuss that. We're going to eat less butter. That's how that works. You have a little
whatever your
butter.
Second arrow may be, I guess.
Oh, Mother says it's a gulag on the butter front. Shoot.
Ooh.
That's too bad. Poor Bob. All right. So anyway, I think this idea is really, really smart. You might not be able to avoid the first arrow now or ever, but you can avoid the second one.
Last statement from this, after we talked about the fact that you can stop believing the lie that you are bad and just that you have a bad habit. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of alcoholics are not bad people. They've maybe made some bad choices. Obese people are not bad people. People who, did all kinds of things are not bad people. They maybe made bad choices. And you can't get out from the big rock hanging over you if you just decide you're a bad person, but you can step away from it and find hope and healing if you decide, I made some bad decisions and I can set that down.
I have a quote coming on. I have no idea what
it's been quite some time since you've given us one of those.
Quote. This will really
an anonymous quote.
Yes, this will take Bonnie's. Thank you. I might as well use the correct word. This will take Bonnie's mind off the butter. Where I got this from, I don't know, but it's not the choices in life that we make that's important. It's our actions we make after we've made that choice.
That's true. That's very true.
And the rest of that, as I think, is that's what defines us.
Let's pretend that's from an astronaut. That feels like an astronaut quote. I think Buzz Aldrin said that.
Oh, actually, I know where I got that from.
Where? What film? What Star Trek film?
It's not a Star Trek film. It's an episode of Ted Lasso.
The great wizard Ted Lasso.
We've watched the last one of season.
You're right.
That's what he says.
You're right. There it is.
But I think it's actually a famous
I think it is
team manager.
Yeah. I think it's like John Madden or somebody.
Yeah, but that's good.
Who's a lot like Buzz Aldrin, quite frankly. All right. So Dr. Mary and I are going on vacation Thursday morning. So there will be no Thursday, Tuesday, or Thursday episodes of, what do we do? Daily Dose. Daily Dose. We will be back on March 22nd. So, there are 323 previous episodes. God. If you feel that you just can't bear to be without us, go do a random search for any one of those episodes. You'll probably find something of value to take with you for the day. Otherwise, we will see you on March 22nd. If you have spring break next week and are traveling, be safe, be careful. If you're staying home, enjoy your staycation. And if you have no spring break, I'm super sorry. We will see you on the 22nd. Have a great day, weekend, next week. We'll see you the week after that.
Bye. Have a good one.